Good choice.
But you have to be committed to those things. Like that is the one flaw in that. You cannot do that unless you're super, super committed and you know that's what you want to do.
Right? That's where the scam comes in. So that's the scam of life. What's going on, guys? Kelland, Chafee, Mark Wilson, digitalfreedommovement.com. On today's podcast, we're going to be just talking about one huge pandemic of a problem, and it's called the scam of life. And I would say, I can safely say, half of you have gone through this pandemic and have experienced it at one point in time. Okay.
I would say more than half of the population has. Like, I would say like 90%, bro.
I skimmed by on the skin of my teeth, not falling into this trap. But guys, one thing that Mark kind of brought this up earlier, and one thing that I've actually talked about quite a bit in the past is the scam of life. And what we're talking about, guys, is a college education. 51% of people who go to college do not get a job in the field that they went to school for. And so another thing that we want to kind of, delve into on this podcast is floaters. And so Mark, fucking floater. Kelland, floater. Okay, what do we mean by floater? If you went to high school and let's say you're grade 12 and you didn't know what you wanted to do for a living, join the club. Mark, like, how many kids did you go to school with that didn't know what they wanted to do?
I would say like that actually did, or just like was guessing. Like, I don't know, like I never had like a high school reunion, so I don't have like status of how many people actually went to university and came back with like their degrees and continuing their field. But none of the people that I still talk to went to school and then were happy in that field and continued in that field and did not change.
And it's fun. It's like, you should not have to know what you want to do. You're 17, 18 years old. Like, no one knows what they want to do for the rest of their life at that age. Like,
bro, the only thing I was focused on at that point in time was women.
yeah. When are we gonna have drinks next, and who can I hook out with, right? Like,
that's about it.
Well, maybe we're just twisted and fucked, but other kids are book learners and they know what they want at a young age. But the majority we're like us, I think, right?
Like, in the end of the day, like, the educational system doesn't really set you up for like really knowing what you want. Like, you can do those stupid like career planner things or assessment tests and everything like that, but they don't really tell you. Like, I remember the things that were on my list. They were like a game designer and architect. I liked both those things. Those were things I have interest in, but I know if I went into those fields, I wouldn't have been happy and being successful in them. That wasn't my career path. But that's where everything was saying that I should. And if I would have went into them, and I have buddies that own video game companies and everything like that, and the majority make like $40,000 a year. And they have like, I think it costs them $40,000 to $50,000 to go to like Vancouver Art School. It's an expensive school, and to get a job where the majority of them got out of school, they only had $20,000 a year jobs. Like, it was just barely above minimum wage.
Yeah, like not only that, but like I'm gonna just take this to a whole other level because I've done my research on this shit. The reason why, like, we're all taught at a young age that to be successful in life, we have to go to college. And the reason why that's acceptable, even though if you look at the numbers, it's not, it's because our parents did it and our grandparents did it. And that's what everybody's done for the last 100 years or more. And the reason why they've done that is it all starts off with the education system. Horace Mann created that. He came from a state in Germany called Prussia. It no longer exists. He invented, so to speak, the educational system when the Industrial Revolution happened, when it was booming, right? They needed employees to fund or to work in factories and whatnot during the Industrial Revolution. And so they needed to grade how smart someone was or how good of a book learner they were so they could be assigned certain positions within a workplace, right? The fact of the matter is that most of the time, or 99% of the time, they only teach you one type of learning in school, and that is book learning. I don't know about you, Mark. I learn better hands-on. I think you do too.
100%, bro. I wouldn't be here today if I was reading books. Like, I can't read. I can't read good.
Can't read good. Mama said these my specialties.
but it's right, man. If it was left to like book learning, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to have impacted the lives that I have. And even to this day, like I learned a lot. I would say I learned at an exceptional level, even though I didn't think I could learn at this level. And it's because I listen to a lot of audiobooks because that's how I retain information. There's multiple different ways that people can learn and our specialty in learning. But the problem is we're not in a box. And so much of the educational system is boxed, right? And we're not as human boxed. So like that, there is the biggest flaw right there. And in the end of the day, like so many people are taught by their parents just to go the exact same pathway as everybody else, but the pathway is flawed. Like for me, like I graduated and I messed up my shoulder, so all my sports scholarships went bye-bye. And because of that reason, I didn't go to any type of post-secondary, which is great. I didn't accrue more debt than I needed. But for me, I just started going from job to job to job because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I ended up, because my girlfriend's dad was a mechanic, I tried to start getting into the mechanical field and everything. And that's where I ended up staying for a decade. And it didn't take me to where I wanted to be in life, but I kept being told by everyone, be grateful for what you have and just accept the path that you're on. And if you continue to do everything, you'll have that white picket fence lifestyle. Now, doing something for a decade and being told that you're peaked at 30 is no freaking plan for anybody to ever live a life of happiness and abundance or any of those type of things. It's a freaking lie. I lived it. I lived that lie for over a decade, had family, all of those type of things. I should have been set up that way. I am a billion times more successful over the last 3.5 years in online business than I was in over a decade doing what the traditional system says.
Dude, the proof's in the pudding. How many multiple six-figure earners or seven-figure earners do you know that work a job? How many? Zero, right? Successful people own businesses, but they don't teach us this shit in school, right? The only time, like, I'm not completely against college. If you, at a young age, you know, you loved animals and you want to be a vet, go to college. Good fucking choice, right? If you want to be a doctor and save lives, awesome. Go to college, get an education. Good choice. A lawyer, good. Go to college, get an education. Good choice.
But you have to be committed to those things. Like that is the one flaw in that. You cannot do that unless you're super, super committed and you know that's what you want to do.
Right? That's where the scam comes in. So that's the scam of life. The first scam is being told that to be successful in life, you have to go to have post-secondary education. The second scam of life is, let's say, Mark, you want to be a lawyer. Okay, this is a good job. It's a high-paying job. Good. You pay $100,000, $200,000 for your education. Great. Awesome. Let's say you're a part of the 51% and you get a job in your field. Good for you. You start doing the job. You're making all this money. You've done it for 5, let's say maybe even 10 years. You are miserable with it. Let's say you hate it. We change. Human beings change. Our interests change. Our behavior change as we get older. Fuck, I'm a lot different now when I just turned 30 than when I was 25.
We were just talking about like how my body has changed over the last decade, right? Like earlier today.
But so awesome. So Mark, now you're miserable with it. Now here comes the shitty part. So let's say, you know, you're a successful lawyer making $200,000 a year. You're miserable with your job and what you do. What are you going to do? Are you going to quit that, go back to school for something else that you think you'd enjoy doing for another 10 years and lose everything? Right? You're making $200K a year. You've adjusted your income to and have luxuries of a $200,000 a year income. You can't lose that. You can't lose all of that money. So what happens? It's either you quit and you start back from square one doing a different career and most likely lose a bunch of things that are important to you or you feel are important to you, or you stay stuck doing something that you're not happy doing until you're dead or until you retire. That's the scam of life right there. We all change. Who knows? 10 years from now, I might be like, fuck online business, fuck online marketing. But the cool thing about online business, guys, is that I can do a million different things in this industry. So it doesn't have to
100%. We
be.
were just talking about that the other day too, right? Like how we're going to expand our empire and how that's going to grow. But you have to have the foresight to be able to do those kind of things. You have to have some kind of planning for that next step and the next step. But if you're working for somebody else, you're stuck with their plan, not your own plan. You don't get to plan. You get to do what they tell you to do. And that's the beauty of owning business and having that kind of freedom. You can transition and have a stream of income that's already flourishing and everything like that. And then you can focus on something else that now you're passionate about, right?
I was actually just thinking, oh, this is kind of funny. So let's say, Mark, we do hate marketing, we hate coaching, we hate everything about online business. In let's say 10 years from now, we still only have to do it for an hour a day. So I'll be miserable for an hour a day so I can have 23 to do what I love. That's happiness if I ever saw it. But I love what I do. I fucking love what I do. I love helping people. I love teaching. I love coaching. I love marketing. I love coming up with new ideas. I love failing. I fail a lot. I try a lot of shit and I waste money and it doesn't work. But when I find something that sticks, I feel good. Yeah.
And that's it. But you have control over that. You get to decide, right? And I think that's one of those big, huge, monumental things is if you don't get to decide and you're stuck because you don't get to decide what you get to do on a daily basis because you're working for somebody else. You don't get to decide how much money that you make because somebody else is putting $1 an hour on that. And you don't get to decide how many hours a day that you're even working. So you went to school, you got a bunch of debt. It's hard to pay that shit off because other NC fine shiny things will come up along the way that you want to fork out money to. And all of a sudden you always have this debt that's hanging over your head that will ultimately control your life, where somebody else that's employing you controls the other part of your life, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and like what we're preaching here, guys, is just, if you're not happy, find something that you're passionate about and figure out a way to make an income with that or to start a business around that passion. That way you're doing what you love and you can still earn leveraged income and, surpass people that have a, or education, or college education, university education, right? It's just do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's the most true saying. I can't even remember who said it, but it's one of the most true sayings that I've ever heard.
100%, but they have to make a plan about it. You have to make a plan. If you don't have some type of plan to make it happen, Kelland followed somebody for a year so he could make a plan. It took him a year to make the plan. Maybe he's a little bit slow, but he made the plan and then he executed and was successful for it. The problem is most people don't ever make the plan. Your plan is to go buy a lottery ticket. There was $70 billion of lottery tickets bought last year just in America. Billion with a big B. And there's only $15,000 or $15 billion spent in buying educational books. That's a huge difference. So more people are leaving their lives to the faith and faiths than they are actually making a plan to execute, right?
Yeah. And here's a little note of value for you guys. If you're that person that's spending money on lotto tickets every single week, every month, or whenever they're available, take that money, put it into a low to medium risk mutual fund or some type of investment account. You're guaranteed to have a couple 100,000 or a couple million in there within the next 40 years. So why are you guys trying to go for 1 in a billion chance when you can have guaranteed money at the end of the day? Well, actually, I already know why. It's because you want it now. It's not going to happen. Well,
no foresight.
Can't win if you can't play, but the chances are slim, right? So, put your energy into something that is guaranteed over time. You're not going to make $1 billion overnight, but the income is there if you get good at the skill or you learn the business. Period.
There's never going to be a better investment than yourself ever.
Yeah. Oh, like I've failed at tons of shit. I've wasted money. I've started businesses that failed miserably. I've done it before, but for all those businesses that I've tried to start that failed miserably, it's not anybody's fault that they failed besides mine. It's not the economy. It's not the internet. It's nobody else's fault but my own. And I accept that shit with a grain of salt every single day. And it's so true. The only thing that can stop you is you. So find something you're passionate about or figure out what you truly want, develop a plan that's going to make it attainable. And then, take actions that are efficacious to, succeed and to win and to get what you truly desire out of your life. All right. So it's okay if you were a floater like me and Mark. He did mechanical, I did mechanical, and the only reason I did that is because it paid decent. I hated it after a few years. It's just the way a lot of us are, guys. You don't need to have a plan at a young age. Just figure out what you love, what your passion is. As I said a million times on this podcast, and full send. Don't let nothing stop you. Just go for it.
Love it.
Right on, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next Entrepreneur Experience.
Thank you for tuning in to the Online Entrepreneur Experience by DFM. We want to hear from you. If you have any questions for Kelland or Mark to answer on our next episode, email us at info@digitalfreedommovement.com. We'd love to answer any of your questions. And don't forget to tune in next week for another amazing experience.